What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw Media. Alright, so last week I did a video talking about Demond Wilson's interview on Comedy Hype. And now, I will admit I'm not familiar with the guy who was interviewing him. I didn't see his name. Maybe it was somewhere in the description, but I don't know him. I don't know him by face recognition or whatever. I could say person, like I'm part of that world. But anyway, I like Demond Wilson. I like him because he's straightforward. He don't bullshit you. He tells you exactly how he feels, and then the straight scoop. And I saw some of the comments saying, people that have listened to him preach and have actually listened to him talk, he says the same thing. He's not a liar. He tells you straight up how he feels about the business. So the last video I did, I was talking about, how Hollywood is not for a person who has morals, who is not willing to cut some throats to get to where they want to get. I know a lot of times movies, docuseries, sometimes want to romanticize Hollywood, but it's not an easy business to be successful. And as Demond Wilson put it, there's a lot of bend over Billies. Pretty much everybody that has been wildly successful in Hollywood have done something strange to get to that quote-unquote mountaintop, you want to call it that. But a lot of these people aren't happy. That's why there's a lot of illicit drug usage in Hollywood, a lot of overdoses, a lot of people taking their own lives. It's not what you think it is. But anyway, in this particular video, I want to show what Demond Wilson said about Norman Lear. Now, of course, Norman Lear passed away last month at the age of 101. Norman Lear was credited with creating various sitcoms in the 1970s into the 1980s. Now, when I did my video about Norman Lear, when he passed, I didn't go real hard on him because I tend to not like to speak too ill of the recently deceased. But I knew that a lot of the shows that he had credited or got credit for were not his ideas. And this is another thing I'm talking about, how Hollywood can be a tough place. You know what I'm saying? I can't remember her name, but you guys remember, I think she passed away now, but it was this black lady who actually wrote the script as far as, I think it was the Terminator movies, right? But Hollywood tried to shut her out. And I think ultimately she won some money behind it. I can't remember the name of the woman or every little specificity behind it. But that's what they do. Hollywood is a really crooked, crummy place at times, right? But anyway, here's Demond Wilson talking about Norman Lear.
That is my last question. It goes back to the Norman Lear thing. Our audience are going to be mad if I don't. Do you think did Norman take some of those ideas, particularly from Eric Monti?
Of course he did.
Yeah.
You think that brother is just making that up? And the late Michael Evans, that played the first Michael under Jefferson's, he beat him out of Good Times.
Did you find out about these things while you were working with him, that he was, moving a certain way?
I never worked with Norman.
Oh, that's right.
He was teamed up with Bud York, and who was executive producer.
Broke up.
Abandon Productions. Norman came around a few times. I liked his first wife, Frances, who's deceased now. She was very honest. She said Norman should be ashamed of himself. He's cut everybody out of everything and make people think he was the only one doing anything. And he had about as much to do with Sanford and Son as my grandmother, who transitioned in 1969. Other than the fact that, because when he parted ways with Yorkin, We never saw him again. And then Jerry Parenchio took the helm. Jerry Parenchio was the guy that went to Jack Kent Cooke and got a few $1 million to promote the first Ali Frazier fight at Madison Square Garden. Jerry Parenchio owned or still owns Telemundo. And then Alan Horn took the helm. Alan Horn became the CEO of Metro Goldwyn Mayer Studio. These were heavy hitters. These were guys that I went in there and said, hey, if you don't pay me, I ain't coming back here. And they said, we'll see about that with your little cocky self. That's when I went to Vegas. You always got to have a plan B, brother. Always. My father said it's a poor rat that only got one hole to crawl in.
You know, it'd be great to learn more about you got me thinking I shouldn't call it Hollywood no more. Learn more about the business, learn more about business and life.
That's what I'm about. Show business. It's a business. For me, that's what it was, a business. I never went to the parties. I didn't belong there. I didn't belong there. I was not part of that group. I wasn't a bend over Billy.
Yeah, man. Like I said in my other video, a lot of times, you know, when we were younger, we were like, well, how come this guy is not in Hollywood anymore? How come he don't make movies? And we'll say, oh, he just couldn't make it. And, you know, and in reality, a lot of them said, you know, no, it ain't that, man. We're not willing to sacrifice ourselves for change. You know what I'm saying? Not willing to compromise ourselves. And there have been a lot of talented people who were getting a push, but then they disappeared. Music, acting, and I think what happened was a lot of them met certain people, and a certain meeting didn't go well. And after that, you know, the same hands that they shook that was going to push them over the edge, as far as push them to stardom, you know, they escorted them out. But, yeah, going to Norman Lear. Norman Lear stole a lot of ideas from various writers. And the evidence suggests that he did it in excess to black and other minority writers. I was aware of this in the 90s with Eric Monte and Mike Evans. Even when I was in high school, I'm reading about that. But over the last 15 to 20 years, I've read that he stole from a lot of different people, just different ideas. And they never got credit. So he died last month. He was 101 years old. His family is wealthy. Extraordinarily wealthy. I don't know how wealthy, but I would imagine Norman Lear is probably worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And a lot of that wealth was stolen. I mean, it's just a pattern, isn't it? Stolen from people who were the real contributors, the real, the real, what term I want to use? The real brainchilds. Many of these shows were the brainchilds of others, and he stole their ideas. Eric Monte created Good Times, along with Mike Evans. Now, as you might have heard DeMar Wilson say, Mike Evans, who passed away, I think it was back in 2006. I think he had lung cancer. I think it was December 2006. But anyway, Mike Evans, he was the one that played the original Lionel that you might have saw on All in the Family, the first season of The Jeffersons, and then he came back to play Lionel a little bit later on in the series. But he helped create Good Times along with Eric Monte. Matter of fact, Michael Evans, the youngest child that was played by Ralph Carter, is named after Mike Evans. But yet, all you see as far as credits is concerned is Norman Lear. And as you heard DeMar Wilson say, Norman Lear didn't even have anything to do with Sanford and Son. But he gets a credit. He gets a writing credit. And that's why Eric Monte was so angry. Because he wound up broke, addicted to drugs, alcoholic, I think. Yeah, but you know what, though? I would probably be screwed up in the head, too, if I got to see people talk about a show that I created and giving the credit to somebody else. All the residuals going to a person that had nothing to do with what I created. All because this guy's a thief. You know what I'm saying? Don't believe nobody in that business. Handshake, none of that stuff. Get everything in writing and get a copy of it. So, you know what I'm saying, like, I remember reading how Mike Evans got fired from the Jeffersons. I think they were at a party. I think they were like at an after party after filming the episode. And they were deep into that first season. And Mike Evans was complaining about the fact that he had fewer and fewer lines. Now, this is a guy that had been working with Norman Lear for years. Being that Mike Evans was on the first season, had been with All in the Family since the first season of the show, right? He was there before Sherman Hemsley. He was there before Isabel Sanford and Marla Gibbs. So he's thinking, okay, yeah, I might be complaining about something, but I got a working relationship with Norman Lear. He complained about it. Norman Lear fired him. So we don't need you. So, it's funny how both those guys, when you think about it, Mike Evans and Eric Monte both got shut out of Hollywood. They got shut out. Eric Monte, you stopped seeing his name in the 80s. Mike Evans is like he just disappeared. That's not by coincidence. That's a certain group, if you catch my drift, backing one of their own, shutting these brothers out. And that's a fact. That's a fact. Look how they did Red Fox at the end. Oh my goodness. You can't even find that interview on YouTube anymore. You know what interview I'm talking about? It's an Entertainment Tonight interview that Red Fox did the day he died. They made sure to get that son of a bitch off of YouTube and off of, for the most part, off of social media. I can't find it. I'm looking for it now. He did that interview October 11th, 1991, the last day of his life. And he was filming on his show Royal Family, which had been a hit. A big hit. I think they were averaging like 20 million viewers an episode. And, Eddie Murphy had put that together for Red Fox. Eddie Murphy was like, had the Midas touch. He saw the chemistry that Red and Della had during Harlem Nights. He pitched the idea of a show with those two to CBS. They went ahead and did it, and it was a huge hit. I remember watching the last episode with Red Fox before he passed. I'll get in that in a moment. But anyway, the problem Red had and the problem Della had was you had these snotty know-it-all writers and producers who thought that they knew comedy. They were trying to tell Red Fox how to be funny. And they weren't treating him with the respect that he deserved. They weren't treating him as a person with the respect that he deserved with well over 50 years of entertainment experience, comedic experience. So in this interview, they kept interrupting Red to do a walk-on. If you look at it, they kept interrupting Red to do a walk-on, which is, you can have anybody do that. Basically, like, it's a scene where he's not even talking. He's like in the background. You can have anybody do that. and just had Red do the real thing. So he interrupted his interview. He goes on to do that bullshit. And when he comes back, he is extremely agitated. Very agitated. And at that time, I don't think Red was that well. I don't know if it was diagnosed, but I think he might have had emphysema. But whatever the case may be, you know what I'm saying, something triggered a heart attack in him. And he suffered a massive heart attack on set and later died at a hospital, I believe in Los Angeles. And, you know, I still remember that Saturday, because he died late that Friday night, and we didn't have social media back then. So I still remember that Saturday, October 12th, 1991, we had headline news. That was the closest thing to a 24-hour news. Well, actually, it was 24-hour news channel. It was headline news. So if you wanted, like, to watch the news, you turned to headline news back then. And I remember seeing that morning that he had died, which seemed so surreal, considering that the man had just came back on television and had one of the highest rated shows on TV. But after he died, I stopped watching Royal Family. And I think it came back for one more year without him, but it just wasn't the same. But anyway, good to see DeMar Wilson back out there. I would love to see him in movies, but I know he's not about that Hollywood lifestyle. But it would be nice to see him in some more independent roles. You know. But yeah, anyway, just wanted to put this out here, man. Tell me what you guys think.